It started, as most stories of the heart often do, on an ordinary day that didn't feel special at all. The rain had been relentless, tapping on the tall glass windows of the CAF where I sat with my laptop, nursing a cappuccino that had long since gone lukewarm. I wasn't there for the coffee. I was there because routine had become my shield. Wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. My life moved in predictable circles, the kind you could draw with a compass, neat, closed, and safe. And then he walked in. Daniel. His name was simple, but nothing about him seemed ordinary in that moment. He came through the door with hair still damp from the rain, shaking droplets from his jacket before running a hand through his messy dark curls. His eyes scanned the crowded CAF, searching for a seat. And by some cosmic alignment, or maybe just bad luck, his gaze landed on the empty chair at my table. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked, voice warm, polite, but with that undercurrent of confidence that suggested he was used to people saying yes. I nodded before I could think. And so he sat. That was how it began. A conversation about the weather turned into one about books, then movies, then work. He was an architect, passionate, idealistic, someone who could sketch dreamlike buildings on napkins and talk about cities as if they were living, breathing beings. And I was a writer who had long since given up on writing anything beyond articles that paid the bills. He asked questions no one else did, the kind that made me pause and really think before answering. By the time the CAF closed, it felt less like we had just met and more like we had stumbled back into each other's lives after years apart. From there, things unfolded quickly. Dinners, long walks, nights spent talking until dawn. I felt alive again, as though someone had turned the dimmer switch of my existence all the way up. My friends teased me about my constant smile. My sister called him the one before we had even reached our 3rd month. And maybe I believed it too. Because everything seemed easy with him. Natural. Right. But life has a way of twisting even the simplest stories. It began with small things. Cancelled plans. Unanswered calls. A flicker of hesitation in his eyes when I asked where he had been. I told myself I was overthinking, that relationships weren't perfect, that people were allowed to be busy. Yet doubt, once planted, grows like ivy through the cracks of trust. The moment everything came crashing down is etched in my memory with painful clarity. It was a Thursday evening. I had left work early, excited to surprise him with dinner at his place. I let myself in with the key he had given me weeks ago, a symbol of trust, of intimacy. The apartment smelled faintly of cologne and something floral. And then I heard laughter. A woman's laughter. My stomach dropped. I walked into the living room and froze. There she was. Tall, striking, with red lipstick that seemed to glow under the soft light. She was perched on his couch, holding a glass of wine. Daniel stood nearby, guilt written across his face as he turned toward me. The silence was unbearable. Finally, he spoke. "This isn't what it looks like." But it was. Or at least, that's how it felt. My heart shattered. Without a word, I left. The days that followed blurred together. Anger, sadness, disbelief. I replayed every moment in my head, searching for signs I had missed, for clues hidden in conversations, for explanations that might dull the pain. My friends rallied around me, telling me I deserved better, that I should move on. And maybe they were right. But love, cruel and stubborn, doesn't fade simply because you want it to. Weeks passed before I saw him again. I was at the same CAF where it all began, nursing yet another coffee I didn't need, when he walked in. For a moment, I considered slipping out before he noticed. But fate, or maybe just bad timing, kept me rooted to the spot. He saw me, approached, and asked if he could sit. Just like the first time. "I owe you an explanation," he said. I wanted to tell him I didn't care, that it didn't matter. But the truth was, I needed to hear it. She's my colleague, he began. Her name is Claire. We were working on a project late, and she came over to discuss some revisions. I should have told you. I should have been honest. But I was afraid you'd misunderstand, and in the end, that's exactly what happened. His words hung between us. Could it really be that simple? Or was I being naive, clinging to hope because letting go hurt too much? I studied his face, the sincerity in his eyes, the way his voice trembled slightly as though he was afraid of losing me for good. Something inside me shifted. Trust, once broken, is not easily repaired. But sometimes the person standing before you is worth the effort. Why didn't you fight for me sooner? I asked quietly. He sighed. Because I thought I had already lost you. And losing you once was unbearable enough. I didn't want to make it worse. We sat in silence for a long time, the hum of the CAF filling the spaces where words failed. And then, almost without thinking, I reached across the table and took his hand. His fingers tightened around mine, tentative but firm, like someone holding on to something precious they were afraid to drop. It wasn't perfect after that. Rebuilding trust rarely is. There were arguments, long talks, nights where doubts crept back in like shadows. But there were also moments of laughter, of shared dreams, of reminders of why we had fallen for each other in the first place. Months later, on another rainy day, he brought me back to that CAF, the one where it all began. This time, he came prepared. In his hands, he held a small sketchbook filled with drawings of buildings, but in the very back, there was something different. A sketch of a little house. Our house, he explained. His dream of a future with me. Life isn't always easy, he said. But I want to build something real with you. Something lasting. If you'll let me. Tears blurred my vision as I nodded. Because despite the pain, the doubt, the mistakes, we had found our way back to each other. And in that moment, I realized love wasn't about perfection. It was about choosing each other, again and again, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. And so, our story continued.